Good day, everyone. Today we are looking at the first challenge from FlowFest. The challenge, um, the challenge says that we need to create a screen flow that allows users to easily create a child account from an account. When users launch this screen flow from an account record, the target account, the flow should fetch the values of this record. Then there should be a screen for users to fill in account name, number of employees, and website. At the end, create a new account with the below values from the targeted account, the parent account, and populate the above fields using the input from the screen: account name, number of employees, and website. And then those are the fields that we need to update. The new account should be a child account, so make sure that the parent account field is updated accordingly. So before now let's look at the at overview of this is how this is already built. One thing, I'll jump ahead for just a minute and then I'll come back to it. So eventually we need the flow to collect the current record ID. In order to do that, right now I'm opening the account object, one of the records. If you edit the page, you will have the option to add a flow component on the page. And if you look at the settings of this flow component, one of them will be passing the record ID into this variable. Meaning we need to have one variable, and since we are sending information into the flow, then this variable needs to be available for input. And this is the name of the variable. So this is something that, now let's go back to the flow and then we will build it so that later on we will need to receive this record ID from the page. Looking at the flow, the first thing we need is that we need a variable to store that record ID. So I created a variable, named it current record ID. It's a text and it's available for input to receive the ID from the page. We will add the screen flow to the page. Then when the user opens the record, then it's going to open this screen. But then the first thing, it's going to get the account. So we are getting the account that has this particular record ID just to get the fields of this record of this account. Then we are basically collecting all the three pieces of information from a screen. And then we are creating a child account. And for almost all fields, we are getting the values from the main account. So we have a get account, and then we are getting the annual revenue from get account. This is the same thing for almost all of them, except for the ones that we are collecting from the screen. The ones from the screen will come from the screen, like the name, it's coming from the screen component. The number of employees, it's coming from the screen component. One thing that's not coming from the screen, it's not coming from the record, it's coming from the record ID, is the parent ID. This is one of the requirements of the challenge, that the two records are connected. One of them is a child, and in order to connect it to the parent, we need the ID of the parent, which we stored earlier in the current record ID. And then eventually, if we need the child account ID, we can store it in a variable. So this is the flow. Now let's build it from scratch. This is a screen flow. What we need first thing is that we need a variable to store the record ID, and this is going to be a text variable. And we're storing the current record ID in it. This is a text and it needs to be available for input. I usually like to name in this manner. I like it to say everything about it. This is a text, this is a variable, this is storing the ID. Then we need to get the values or the fields inside this record ID. The values of the record that has this record ID. We are getting get account. This is an account that has the ID that we got. Current record ID. We're storing everything. Then we need to collect three pieces of information from the user. One of them is the account name, number of employees, and website. So one text, one number, and then another text. So this is account name or company name. This is number of employees. and this is website. This is all the information we need from this user. I change this to next, and we'll hide pause. This is going to be the information screen. We're done with this. Now we need to create that account, the child account. We are create child account. This account is an account of object account. Now, what information do we need to pass into this account? We need to have let's take the screen information first. So we have the name. It's going to be from the screen, and then we have the number of employees. That's also from the screen, and we have the website. That's also from the screen website. We need the parent ID to be the same ID that from which we are opening the flow, and then the remaining values should be the ones that are stated in here, like the type, to get the value of type from the record that we are opening and we are running the screen from. We are going to open the account from get account, and then we're going to get the type. We're going to repeat this process with all of them. Phone, this is the one from get, and this is phone. Yeah, so I will not add the remaining ones. This is just enough. It's going to be the same thing for the remaining fields. If we need to store the record ID that we are going to create, just create a new variable, and I will name it text variable child account ID. This is a text, and we are not going to use this variable in this flow, but I mean, in case at some point like you need to get the ID, you can do it in this manner. Now let's save. This is create from Record Flow. I'll just name it anything. Then we need to activate it. Now the remaining ports you can debug and test, but then I'd like to show you how to add it to a page as well. So the page is not relevant to the flow, but perhaps it will help someone. In order to do that, you can go to any record, open any account, edit the page. To the left side, under components, you can find one component that says flow. You can just drag it somewhere on the screen. I just delete the old one, and this one I will choose the one that we just created, create from record flow. And so this is the variable that we created, text variable underscore current record ID. What are we going to pass in here? We will click pass record ID into this variable to be the record ID. I'll save this, I'll activate it. Assign as app default. I'll just assign it to sales. Saving. Now it should we should have this flow on the page on any account record. Then let's test it now. Like, you can test it from debug, but then I'm going to test it on the record itself. We'll just name this child account 100, and then I just put any website. This is areas. Right. So like the flow has finished. Let's see if we got an account. So we created child account 100. Does it have the parent ID? So the parent account is now areas, the one that we opened earlier. It is copying the let's open this one. So like basically we're comparing. We got the phone from the original or the parent account. So is it the same thing, 1 2 3 4 at the end? So it is 1 2 3 4 at the end. The website here is Force Anywhere. It's a different website. We got We get the website from the screen, not from the parent record. And that's what the flow does eventually. This is all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.